Let me get off the world. So as I pedalled off to work, I used to cycle. For my evening shift, the turning of the wheels amused me. Around and around I go, what am I? Some kind of clockwork orange? God, how boring, monotonously life can be. Upon my arrival at work, I parked the bike, went to the company's building foyer, flashed my ID card at the security guard, and waited for the elevator. I should say I used to work in IT, computers, in those years. At the open doors, no one exited. I entered alone and pressed the number for my floor. I leaned on the side of the carpeted box, the door shut, and in a hush the elevator ascended. As I gazed at the interior space, I wasn't thinking of anything at all. My mind was a blank and focused on the present moment. This is like living in the now, right? In that very instant, I perceived the inexplicable. On my left side, just off my line of sight, so I was kind of looking like, and it was about there, and a few feet away, a jewel of light blinked on and off. My incredulous face must have posed quite a picture. 30 years later, I still remember the jewel's striking clarity. I had never seen anything like it before that day, nor have I since. Words are inadequate, as they tend to cheapen the jewel's extra-dimensional luster. It looked like a glimmering diamond shaped like a star-crossed, like a little bit, very intense. As golden rays pour from the centre, I haven't even talked about colours, but gold is love in the spiritual domain. Not in a human sense of love, which is red, because of the heart, but anyway. A healing heat irradiated my being. To say the experience left me feeling euphoric was an understatement. I wanted to tell my workmates about the jewel, but I resisted the temptation. "Are you on drugs?" would have been the most likely reaction. However, I knew someone who would take me seriously. So on my return home that night, I went and looked for Pat. His light was on, so I paid him a visit. He always had a certain routine, Pat, always the same. He just lay, when he slept at night, he just had a blanket and pillow on the floor, nothing else, that was it. And a mug of hot cocoa or whatever. I must admit, we're not going into hygiene, but that's another question. His clothes were his day clothes. Brown pants, short sleeve, grey sweater and white vest. That was it. As far as I knew, he didn't undress a bit, so I won't go there. He greeted me with his customary benign smile. "Good evening." Oh, I said, "Good evening, how are you, Big Deeper?" "Oh, I'm fine." I sat down at the table side and gave him the news. I saw this jewel-like star come into view. His eyes widened with interest. "You did? That's a gift." Had it been anyone else, I expect they would have called in the man in white and taken me away. But Pat was something else. For him, spectral manifestations were manna from heaven. If he were a doctor, this would be his specialist field. "What colour was it?" he asked. "Gold." That must have pleased you. Yes, it did. I saw the gleam in his eye. "I've seen those jewels too," he said. "It's a sign." "A sign of what?" "Truth and recognition. When I speak to you about the ways of spirit, it's not me, but what speaks through me. When I see a jewel, it's telling me, don't doubt what you say, because you are speaking the truth. And me, what did I do to deserve such a gift? Simply this. You cannot look at beauty with the devil's eyes, or you will corrupt the light. In other words, it's referring to the psychological demon. I'm not with you. You got rid of that beast inside you. You demonstrated your love for the light. And the jewel of love is the gift you received. Call it a reward for your efforts. You've done well. Done well? I have heard that in my sleep once. That's something else you'll have to read. But anyway, God, is he everywhere? Pat smiled at my wonderment. When you get to my age, you'll understand everything. Your age? You must be 60 if you're a day. That's 30 years plus away from me. Is ever any sooner? He looked amused. Don't you know that all good things come to those who wait? And so tell me about it. So that was the kind of interactions that Pat and I had. There's a wealth of interesting experiences in here. It involves connecting with the atmosphere. When I mentioned the UFOs earlier, they are really connected with weather. When I came over from the UK in 2005, the seasons were the same every year. Winter, spring, summer, autumn. Always the same. It's like a clockwork. You knew what to expect. After that, a few years later, there was a whole mass of sightings in the UK, all across the UK. And from about 2008 onwards, the seasons in the UK changed dramatically. Constant flooding, high winds. And you know, these days, insurance for a property or real estate there is the highest in Europe because the foundations of the ground have been undermined by this constant dampness. So things have changed dramatically. Say you get these 100-mile-an-hour winds, it'll be very warm winters, very abnormal. It's gone on and on ever since. Okay, there's a few breaks. You do get cold weather as well, but it's a sign that's what's happening globally. There's a whole another subject really that I'm not really here to discuss. There's probably people here that can do a better job of it than me, talk about what's happening to this world in terms of global warming. As spiritual entities, we play our part. We can actually help change the way things are going, but it needs the whole world to get together, get its act together that way, because as I say, it's getting to a point where you can't reverse anything. It's just going to go on. It's going to get warmer. The seas are going to become stagnant. Life will end as we know it. So, and we know what's happening. So be aware of that. And in a sense, Pat spoke of that too. His whole life was about, you know, he'd go out, he'd be out there all day just looking at the heavens. For him, that was his world. He was here on a temporary basis. He didn't want to stay here. He liked the simple things. He could relate to the beauty of nature, the birds, the flowers. Very feminine in that regard. He was completely in contact with his feminine side, both masculine and feminine. He had the balance, which men, and I'm one of those, I'd lost that balance. So I had to find that, but I had to get it back again. Become more feminine. What's wrong with that? I mean, I'm 60% man, 40% woman, and it's the same for women, the other way around. Why should we be afraid of our other side? I don't understand that. It's something we all have to sort of work on and evolve at as time goes on, because we won't be able to move on to another plane of existence until we do. Now I see I'm getting in the flow because I'm much more relaxed, and when you're relaxed, that's when you get that connection, and it just comes through. It's automatic. I'm not even thinking about it. It's just coming out of me. This has real energy because it's the truth. You can read any number of books that talk about a secret and the abundance, but this is the truth. Read this and you will discover a world you didn't know existed, really. It will open doors for you, doors of opportunity. You would even begin to see the angels. You'll begin to see incredible wonders that we as humans have never seen before. But it's there waiting. We just have to tune in, the wavelength, get the channel right, and it will all just begin to flow. We all have special gifts. We all are very unique. You know, when I speak about a gift from the stars, there are millions of stars out there. And Pat used to say, every star has a name, a unique name, and every human has a unique star with his or her name on it. That is their temple in the stars. That one star is theirs alone, and no one else can inhabit it. That's where you have to get back home to. I've had the fortune of connecting with different cultures, different spiritual philosophies. You know, marrying a native woman, you know, I was introduced to the native spirituality, and I could see this immense, this incredible connection with what Pat was talking about. And once I did have the insight or the confirmation that, spiritually speaking, the native spirituality is closer to God than any other. He actually approves of that more than any other, because we are actually concerned, well, native people as a whole, well, they've lost their way a bit too, but they are the guardians of that. They understand that connection. And I'm very grateful to be in a community that does understand that. But they too have issues, as we all do. But anyway, remember that, we all have our own star. We're always searching for the impossible. the infinite dream. Thank you very much.